and welcome to today's After School Club program. My name is Kim. I am one of the community learning specialists here with Do Space, and today for our Wednesday Make It, we are continuing our learning about circuits. And today we are going to be talking about breadboards. So this guy right here is a breadboard, and we're going to be talking about kind of what a breadboard is, how to use it, and then I'm going to be showing you an example of how to create a pretty simple circuit with our breadboard today. They can get pretty complicated. If you have more, if you have interest in this, I definitely look up some resources online. There's a lot of great tutorials on how to make like really kind of a lot more complex ones than we're doing today. I just wanted to go over kind of the basics of them. But they're a really great way to kind of get into circuitry that kind of leads its way into robotics. So if you are kind of interested in robotics and programming, things like that, breadboards are a really great way to kind of start for that. So yeah, so today we are going to be talking, like I said, about breadboards. So what is a breadboard? So a breadboard, it is a rectangular plastic board. You can see I have my example right here. And it has a ton of lot of tiny little holes. You can kind of see all those tiny little holes in them. And these holes, they let you easily insert electronic components to prototype. So prototype means to build a test version or an early version of something. And for electronic circuits. So like you can see on my picture on my PowerPoint that we have these circuits, the components in our circuit. We have our battery with our switch. Some of the components are our LED. We have a resistor, and then obviously our breadboard. So we're going to be using a lot of the things you see here today when we're building our pretty basic circuit today. So this is what's called a breadboard. And you might be thinking, like, why is it called a breadboard? Where does breadboard come from? It does not look like anything like bread. So breadboard comes from the early days of electronics. And so people would, as you kind of see in this picture, they would drive nails or screws into wooden boards, like cutting boards, you know, boards that you would a lot of times cut bread on, to connect their circuits. And obviously, you are not hopefully wanting to ruin any of your cutting boards and anymore. You know, a lot of times there's plastic as well, but if you had a nice wooden cutting board, I feel like maybe you're grown-ups, you wouldn't want to ruin it by sticking nails into it. So people have somebody created these plastic ones that are a lot easier to use and are a much better option for one to use. And so here are some different examples of breadboard. So you can have a full breadboard, a half breadboard, and a mini one. So I have here today with me just a half one. And it's kind of based off the, basically the number of holes that allows you to like make how many components you have. So you can kind of see in my full one here, it's just a lot longer. Our half one is obviously half of the full one, and then our mini is our little guy. And a lot of breadboards, they come with tabs or notches on the sides that allow you to actually snap multiple ones together. So you can kind of see on the sides here, let me see if I can get it in an angle that you can see, but you can kind of see these notches on one side and then holes on the other. So if I had two, I would actually be able to just kind of click them together just to kind of expand my my breadboards. But a nice size for beginner level projects like the one we're going to be doing is this half size. This half size is sufficient sized for a lot of beginner projects. So that is nice. Then you might be also thinking, like, well, what's inside of a breadboard? So there are these a lot of times leads. So if you basically, anything that you're kind of putting into your breadboard, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a second, the metal components that you're putting in there, the legs of them are called the leads. And so there are these clips that you can kind of see in my picture here, how there are these little metal clips, and there's just rows and rows and rows of them. And so the leads or the legs, you can see this component right here have the metal legs, and they just nicely clip into them. And so as you know, as we've talked about in past videos, past webinars, is that, you know, things that are a lot of times metal are conductive. And so you need something that's conductive to allow that electricity to flow through it. And so these clips allow for solderless, basically a solderless connection. So you might, as soldering is like when you may have seen them before. They're like wands. They're like metal wands, and they get really, really hot on one end. And soldering, there's, you know, solder itself, the kind of material itself that you are basically kind of melting to connect two metal pieces together, which allows those connections. Well, with these, you don't need to do that. So it's just you're able to not have to use a solder, which then allows you to be flexible, like, which again, it kind of goes with prototyping of it. If you make a mistake, you can just change where you're placing your placing everything, all your different leads and whatnot, and you don't have to think about, oh no, I soldered this together and made a pretty, you know, semi-permanent connection, and now I have to start over or like desolder, and it can just kind of get messy that way. So breadboards are really nice, so you don't have to do any soldering, which is pretty cool. And so this is kind of the general setup of and I did this so I don't have to like put this all the way up and try and point out all of like the different little holes, which is kind of hard with this on the camera. But you can see kind of, this is a general setup of our breadboard. So we have, I'm going to start with the top. So as at the top, there are your letters. So you have kind of two sections of your letters, A through E and then F through J. And basically, you're gonna have to think of it as kind of cross sections of these grids. So like basically, this is the whole C, our whole C line. So obviously our D's, F's, and then on this middle one, you can see on these, because the letters are your columns, and then the numbers on the right or left-hand side, left and right-hand side are going to be your rows. And so you can see how everything, this is all of row 12. And then on the outer sides are going to be what's called your buses. And so this allows basically to connect your electricity to. And so the buses are where you are going to connect your batteries for. And they're also called rails. And so you can see how in our picture, we've talked about it a lot of times in electrical circuits. Red means positive, black means negative or ground. In this picture, we have them as blue, and also a lot of times you can see them as blue as well. But that just kind of helps you also. We've talked about how it's so important to, you know, you don't want any short circuits, or, you know, if you have it connected, you know, some things are have our polarization, like our LED bulbs, and so you don't want our positive legs or leads to connect to your negative or anything like that. So this is just a nice, easy way to kind of identify which is positive and which is negative. So for for example, like anything, if you had wires that connected, so for example, on this far right picture, a battery connected to the negative and positive, everything on this side, basically all of these are going to be connected electronically. And so that's, when I say this side, I mean the A through E side. So you can see how there's a gap in the middle. You can see how there's a gap in the middle. So basically there's kind of two different sections of our breadboard. So you could technically have two different circuits going on at the same time. You could have a circuit going on over here and a circuit going on over here. But you can also kind of expand them across as well, where you would have like positive going from one side and then connecting it to maybe the rows. You're actually connecting it to the rows as opposed to the columns. So and I'm going to do kind of a couple of different variations of our circuit so you can kind of see what I mean. But you could go across, like, you know, everything in row 2 is connected. Or you can have it where, you know, things on one side, so positive to column C, and then which is C3, and then to, you know, negative. So I'll kind of go over how to kind of make different variations of this. So that's kind of how all the holes are connected. So basically, it just for an example, it means that holes in A1 are electrically connected to holes in B1 and C1 and D1 and E1, but they are not connected to hole A2. And that's because they're in a different row. And it is also not connected to holes in F1, G1, H1, I1, or J1. So that means if I can get my mouse, there we are, there's my mouse. So basically all of these are going to be connected, but A1 and A2 are not connected, and E1 and F1 are not connected. So these are all connected because they're all in the same row. So I hope that makes sense. When I do an example, it will make a little bit more sense, I promise. So these are kind of our examples of our breadboard. And I'm realizing I might need to, oh no. Just one moment, I need to get out of I'm gonna pause my, well, just a second. Okay, here we go. I hid my materials list. Okay, so let's get started on making our breadboard, shall we? Just because I feel like, you know, the easier, you know, I could talk about it, but it's a little bit easier to understand by actually creating it as opposed to like talking about how they work. So here are some of the things you will need to create today's circuit using a breadboard. So you obviously need your breadboard. So I have that right here. I have an LED right here, which we've talked about LEDs before. They're little diodes, and they are polarized, just like our batteries. So we have our long leg, which is our positive leg, and our short leg, which is our negative leg. I'm going to call these leads for today. So our positive lead and our negative lead, and I can tell that because one is shorter than the other. We are going to, I'm using a 9-volt battery, and then also a 9-volt battery snap connector. So these is nice. These just pop right on to the top. And then what's also nice is obviously our wires are color coded. So we have our red for positive, black for negative. And it's also really nice because, see if I can get a close up on here and not have it terribly out of focus. It's not going to be in focus. But the nice thing about these snap connectors is that the core inside, so all this like stuff around it where you see the black and the red, this is just insulator. So that, you know, obviously it just kind of insulates the metal in the middle. And this is just like one single piece, which is really nice because it makes it really easy to pop it in to our breadboard. You sometimes, I have an example, we're not going to be using this one, but I have another, this is just like a little coin cell battery holder. And you can see that maybe, hopefully, that they have the ends, but these are more, let's see if I can get them kind of twisted out. They're more like threads. If you think of them like threads of yarn or string, I'm going to try and get it. I've made them, twisted them pretty easily. Oh, see, there we go. Kind of see that it's kind of all twisted out. And these, like when they're like this, when they're all thready like this, they're also more flexible, so they're not as easy to get in to our and clip into those clips that are down in there. So I would suggest if you're finding a connector for your batteries, get one that has like this kind of solid core, metal core, because that's going to make it a lot easier to pop into your breadboards. And you just really want it, you want it to be really nice and easy, because again, you have the best connections make for the best results. And then you're going to need a resistor. So a resistor just allows, so if I were to connect this circuit all together, the amount of electricity, 9 volts, is coming. That's kind of like the measurement of electricity that flows from a battery like this. Well, if I connected it to this LED with this 9 volt, it would probably pop or blow my little LED bulb. It would be too much. There'd be too much voltage coming through. The amount of electricity coming through would be too much for our little LED. So a resistor just kind of slows that, not so much like, it just kind of slow down the current, or it just allows so that it doesn't, so not as much electricity is getting to our LED all at once. And so hence resistor, it's resisting some of that electricity to go into our LED. And so this is going to be really nice so we don't blow our circuit, our little resistor right here. And then we also need some wires that we're going to connect. So there's a couple different versions. So you can find these wired with solid pins at the end, which these are really nice because they have nice solid pins. They pop in really easily. A lot of times you can find packages that are different colors, but if you're doing a lot of different wiring, because they're so like kind of floppy, they can get a little bit messy. You can also make your own. This is just like wire that you can get from like a home, like a Home Depot, Lowe's, places like that, or online, that has just like metal solid, and then you could just cut it and strip the ends and then able to do it. And if I'd been smart, I would have just I could have cut it short, so you can cut them so that, if you need to kind of cut them to length as you need them, so it's not as messy. But it's kind of the same deal, right? It allows them to go in there. This one's just long, so. But yeah, and that's basically it. And then I have some markers because I'm going to kind of mark down on our thing. I'm hoping that'll kind of help with the visual of it. And so that might help you as well. So those are the things that you need. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to go ahead and get started with this. So what we are going to do first is, so obviously get it the right way up. So you can see, like on our breadboard, we have our letters at the top, and then our numbers on the sides, and then we have our positive and negative and positive and negative and positive. So we talked about how A1 is connected to B1 to C1 to D1, and but it's not connected to F1, and then A1 is not connected to A2. So this is what we are going to first. We're going to kind of just like, we're going to make it so we are going to go across the entire board. So this is the first thing we are going to do. I'm going to make a connection. We are going to, just to make it easy, I'm going to use like the third row. Actually, I'm just going to do row number 1. We'll just do row number 1. So actually lies. We're going to do row number 3 because I want to kind of, so I'm going to stick my red wire into, basically it's going to be J, let's move that, J3. Now, and then I'm going to stick it to 1, 2, 3 down. So I have it, my first one on, see if I can move this, there we go, to J number 3, and then I am going to connect it to the positive, so this right side of this rail or bus is our positive, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 holes down. And that is because whenever I connect my battery, basically, we were doing this right now, just for the sake of example, whenever I put my wire, my red wire from my battery, this is now powering this entire side of this rail. So if I put stuff down here as well, everything I connected from this positive rail over on basically this half of my breadboard will potentially be powered if connected correctly. So this basically goes all the way down. Same with the positive. If I needed to, I could do this, and basically anything else, if we wanted to, we can. We'll just do that first. So now we're going to go across first. We're going to go across. So I'm going to do that. So and then I'm going to basically, because we're going across, again, our LED is polarized as well with a positive or a negative, and our battery has a positive and negative too. So I am needing to connect positive to positive. So I need to connect this positive or longer leg or rail, and I'm going to put that anywhere on this side, on the F through J side, the positive leg anywhere in row 3. So I'm going to do H3. Actually, it lies. I'm going to do G3. So now this positive leg is in the 3rd row down, 1, 2, 3 on row G. Now, because we're going across the whole thing, I'm actually going to put our negative leg across this and put it into E number 3 and press that down. So now I have my positive leg in G3, and then I have my negative leg in E3. And then I'm going to put in my resistor, and I'm going to put this in row 3 as well. And the nice thing about resistors is that they are not polarized, so I can put them in any kind of way. This way, turn around this way, it doesn't matter. But as long as I put it into the 3, so I'm in row 3 anywhere, so I'm going to put it in D and B3. So I have our positive, the battery wire, our red positive, in our positive railing. I have wiring that goes from our positive railing to J3. I have our LED from G3 to E3, and then I have our resistor, make sure those are nice and connected, from D to B. And then I'm going to take my black wire, and I'm going to put it in A3 and put it in 1, 2, 3 on the negative side. So you can see how I'm staying. You got to stay within that row. So I have A3, A1, 2, 3, and then I have this one in the 3rd one down. Now, if I take my wire from my battery and I stick it into, it should work. Oh, but it didn't. Oh my goodness. Let's see. See, and this is good because obviously I did something wrong. I thought I had it right. And now we need to troubleshoot. So let's make sure we're all in this, some of the same things. Some of the things that you have to think about is, are you in the same row? Which I am. 1, 2, 3. All of that. Let's make sure my LED light legs were correct. It looks like it. I'm going to make sure all your leads are sufficiently in. feel like they're sufficiently in. It's still not working. Friends. Well, let's see what I am doing wrong. I am going to cheat a little bit. We're going to go back. Resistor. Oh, I know what I need to do. Okay. I don't think I actually need this one. That's right. I forget. So this is what I'm actually going to do. We'll see if this works better. I'm going to put one side of my resistor into, we'll say B3, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to put the other side of my resistor in. And it's still not working. Friends, what are we doing wrong? We're in the negative, we're in the positive. I literally had to set up the exact same way before we, let's see, before we started. Oh goodness, you gotta love 3, 3, 3, 3. Let's see. And that is on. Well, friends, what am I doing wrong? I have my negative in the negative. I have my negative in the negative rail or bus. I have my resistor. And we're all in the same row. 1, 2, 3. Maybe if I put it up one. It shouldn't matter. Oh my goodness, friends. Okay, well, let's see if we can make a different way work better. I'm so sorry about that. This is weird. Okay, let's see if we can make a different one a little better. So we are going to take these out. And so now we're going to just use 1/2, just 1/2 of our thing. So what I'm going to do is, so we're going to start with our positive. So we're going to put, like, again, positive should power up our entire one side of our first side of our thing. Now, same, and now we have to kind of think about it going this way. Now we're going to be thinking about it in terms of our columns as opposed to our rows. So I have this, and I'm going to then connect our wire, a red wire. I'm going to be going into the third one, and I'm going to be going into the, we'll say, C. And we'll do C3. So 1, 2, C3. Okay, now I need to connect our positive, and I need to, if I put, now I should be able to go anywhere in the C row. So I'm going to put it in 6. 1, 2, 3. C6. And then I'm going to put my negative leg into C9. Oh, maybe. Get in there, friends. There we go. And then I'm going to take my resistor and I'm going to go from, ooh, I put that in B, not C. See there? This is why troubleshooting is really important. Put it in B and not C. A, B, C. Okay. And now I'm in, my negative leg is in C10. So then I'm going to take my resistor and put it in A10, because now the 10 row is connected, and put it to our negative. Oh, and sometimes these get a little bit bendy, so maybe that's, hopefully the clips are clipping into them nice. They're clipping into them nicely. And then if I put my negative, oh my goodness, friends. I wonder if I pop my LED battery or my LED light. I might have popped my LED. Well, friends, I am so sorry. In theory, this is supposed to work. And so I am not sure. I know I'm doing it right. I've practiced. And I had it working right before I took everything apart. So friends, I'm not exactly sure what the dealio is. Let's see. Let me just double check my work. Okay, in terms of this one, I have my positive and negative in the same ones. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I think I must have blown my LED, guys, and I don't have an extra one to like double check my work. But in theory, I've double checked both of how we worked on this one and how we worked on the other one. And then they're both supposed to work. So if you were to do your own and put it in the way that I have shown you, it should work. It would work. I promise you. So, but you want to always make sure that they're closed and there's not a short circuit. So let me just double check one more time. I have positive wire to a row. I have well, maybe not. Let me double check something. So, okay, what I'm going to change is I'm putting my red wire. So I am putting my red wire to row number 3. I'm going to put my positive leg of my battery into row number 3 too. So C3. I'm going to put my negative leg into C8. Pop in there, please. There we go, C8. And then I'm going to connect my resistor in row 8. So I'm going to put it in A8, and then I'm going to connect my resistor into the negative. I must have popped this LED. Well, you guys, I promise you, if we were to do it in a similar way, you would get it done. And I'm sorry it didn't work, but sometimes this is the great thing about prototyping, is that sometimes you work and sometimes you have to fiddle with it to get it to work. But both this theory, so I have it, let me just kind of, so I have our positive wire in the positive side of our bus, and I have my red wire from basically into the positive side of our bus to A3, and then I have my positive leg of my LED into C3. I have my negative leg of my LED in C8. I have my resistor, one leg of my resistor in A8, and then I have my other leg of my resistor in the negative line of my bus, and then my negative to negative. So that should work too. I think I must have popped my LED at some point, and I'm not sure when or how, but you guys, I believe in you. I believe that you can do this if you were to find all of your things. So sometimes, because this is live and sometimes our webinars are not always successful, I apologize, but if you try this, please try and do it yourself. I highly recommend it. It's really cool when it works out. Also, there are a lot of other resources online as well, tutorials for really cool projects. So yeah, check it out. So friends, thank you so much for joining me today for our this is gonna be our last circuit, series. And so next week we are going to be doing stop motion animation. So I'm going to be showing you how to do a stop motion animation video, which should be a little bit really cool. And then October, we're going to be doing origami. So yeah, so hopefully you can join us next time. And I hope to see you again next week. Have a good day. Bye-bye.